Many Golden Age actors, despite their fame, tragically died in poverty due to poor financial management, industry changes, or personal struggles. Stars like Clara Bow, Buster Keaton, and Veronica Lake faced hardship after their careers faded, highlighting the harsh realities behind Hollywood's glamorous facade. Marie Dressler was one of the most beloved actresses of the early 20th century, celebrated for her vibrant personality and exceptional talent. She achieved great success during the silent film era and later won the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1931 for Min and Bill. Despite this pinnacle of recognition, Dressler's life was marked by significant financial struggles. Earlier in her career, she endured a series of failed ventures and personal hardships, including health problems and industry setbacks. Although she experienced a late career resurgence, her time in the spotlight was relatively brief, and she did not accumulate lasting wealth. Marie Dressler's story is sadly not unique among Golden Age actors. Many stars of Hollywood's early decades faced a harsh reality: fame did not guarantee financial security. Factors such as poor money management, lack of royalties, shifting audience tastes, and the transition from silent films to talkies left numerous actors struggling in later years. Legends like Clara Bow, Buster Keaton, and Veronica Lake also encountered poverty despite their fame, reflecting the precarious nature of show business. These stories remind us that behind the glamour and glitz of Hollywood's golden age were real people who often faced difficult struggles, sometimes ending their lives in financial hardship despite their contributions to film history. Buster Keaton, known as the Great Stone Face, was one of the most innovative and beloved silent film comedians of Hollywood's golden age. Renowned for his physical comedy, deadpan expression, and daring stunts, Keaton created timeless classics like The General and Sherlock Jr. His films showcased brilliant creativity and technical skill, making him a pioneering figure in early cinema. However, despite his immense talent and success during the silent film era, Keaton's career took a downturn with the arrival of sound films, or talkies. The new technology transformed the industry, and Keaton struggled to adapt. Additionally, he lost creative control when he signed with MGM, which imposed restrictions that stifled his artistic vision. This period led to a decline in the quality and popularity of his work, resulting in financial difficulties. By the 1940s, Keaton had fallen into poverty and battled alcoholism, barely surviving on small roles and occasional performances. It wasn't until later in life that he experienced a modest comeback, gaining recognition for his earlier contributions to film. Despite this late resurgence, his financial hardships underscore the unpredictable nature of show business and how quickly fame can fade, even for a legendary figure like Buster Keaton. Lillian Gish was one of the most celebrated actresses of Hollywood's silent film era, often called the First Lady of American cinema. With a career spanning more than 75 years, she starred in classics like The Birth of a Nation and Broken Blossoms, helping to shape the art of film acting with her delicate, expressive performances. Her dedication to the craft and pioneering work earned her iconic status, and she is still revered as a foundational figure in cinema history. However, despite her fame and long career, Lillian Gish faced significant financial difficulties later in life. Like many actors from the silent era, Gish did not always receive the kind of financial compensation or royalties that modern stars benefit from. The transition from silent films to talkies also limited her opportunities, and she never amassed great wealth. Additionally, the lack of residual payments from her earlier work meant she did not benefit from reruns or re-releases of her classic films. Though she continued acting on stage and screen into her later years, Gish's financial situation was often precarious. Her story highlights the harsh realities many silent film stars faced. Remarkable talent and fame did not always translate into lasting financial security. John Barrymore was one of the most celebrated actors of the early 20th century, known for his magnetic stage presence and powerful performances in both theater and film. Often called the Great Profile, Barrymore excelled in classic roles like Hamlet and Richard III, as well as popular films such as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. His charm and talent made him a major star of Hollywood's golden age. Despite his success, Barrymore's life was plagued by personal struggles, particularly alcoholism. His excessive drinking increasingly affected his health, reliability, and work. As a result, his once thriving career began to decline in the 1930s, and he found it difficult to secure leading roles. His financial situation worsened due to lavish spending, poor investments, and the costs associated with his lifestyle and addiction. Barrymore's money troubles forced him to sell possessions and accept less prestigious work to make ends meet. His story is a tragic example of how fame and talent can be overshadowed by personal demons. He died in 1942, financially depleted and physically weakened, leaving behind a legacy of extraordinary performances but also a cautionary tale about the pressures and pitfalls of stardom. Clara Bow, famously known as the original It Girl, was one of the biggest stars of the 1920s. Her charisma, energy, and natural talent captured the spirit of the flapper era, making her a box office sensation. Starring in hits like It, 1927, and Wings, 1927, the first film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, Bow became a symbol of modern womanhood and Hollywood glamour. At the peak of her career, she received thousands of fan letters a week and was among the highest-paid actresses of her time. However, Bow's success masked deep personal struggles. Raised in poverty and abuse, she faced lifelong mental health challenges. The arrival of sound films exposed her Brooklyn accent, and though she made a few talkies, the transition was difficult. Harsh press coverage, studio exploitation, and a nervous breakdown led her to retire in the early 1930s. Bow's later years were marked by isolation and financial strain. Despite marrying actor Rex Bell and moving to Nevada, she remained emotionally fragile and avoided the public eye. Without lasting royalties or wise financial management, much of her wealth vanished. Clara Bow died in 1965, largely forgotten by Hollywood, a tragic end for one of its brightest early stars. Rudolph Valentino, often referred to as the Latin lover, was one of the most iconic and beloved stars of the silent film era. With smoldering looks and irresistible screen presence, he became a heartthrob worldwide, starring in classics such as The Sheik, 1921, Blood and Sand, 1922, and The Eagle, 1925. His roles shaped the image of romantic masculinity in early Hollywood and made him one of the highest-paid actors of his time. Despite his immense fame, Valentino's life was marked by turmoil. He faced constant scrutiny from the press, legal disputes over his marriages, and harsh criticism of his masculinity in American media. Financially, Valentino lived extravagantly, often beyond his means. He invested in expensive homes, cars, and lifestyle luxuries that drained his resources. When he died suddenly at age 31 in 1926 due to complications from a perforated ulcer, he left behind a tangled estate with considerable debts and unresolved legal matters. His unexpected death caused mass hysteria among fans, but his estate was poorly managed, and his wealth quickly vanished. Though a global icon in life, Valentino's financial legacy deteriorated quickly after his death, showing that even superstardom couldn't shield silent-era actors from long-term financial instability. Theda Bara, one of early Hollywood's first major sex symbols, rose to fame during the silent film era as the original vamp, a seductive woman who used her charms to destroy men. Her breakthrough role came in A Fool There Was, 1915, where her portrayal of a dark, mysterious femme fatale captivated audiences. With heavy eye makeup, exotic costumes, and a carefully crafted image of danger and allure, Bara became one of the most recognizable stars of the 1910s, second only to Charlie Chaplin in popularity at one point. Despite her fame and fortune at the height of her career, Theda Bara's stardom was short-lived. By the 1920s, changing tastes and the rise of new film styles left her behind. Most of her films were lost in a 1937 fire at the Fox Studios vault, effectively erasing much of her legacy. She retired from acting early and lived a quiet, private life out of the spotlight. Without ongoing work, royalties, or residuals, Bara's wealth dwindled over time. Though she lived modestly with her husband, director Charles Brabin, she never regained the financial success of her youth. When she died in 1955, she had largely faded from public memory and left behind little fortune, a stark contrast to her early fame. Bessie Love was a charming and talented actress who rose to fame during the silent film era. Known for her fresh-faced innocence and girl-next-door appeal, she starred in numerous successful films throughout the 1910s and 1920s, including The Matinee Idol, 1928, and The Broadway Melody, 1929, for which she received an Academy Award nomination. Love transitioned successfully into talking pictures, one of the few silent-era actresses to do so initially, but her success in sound films was short-lived. As Hollywood evolved and younger stars emerged, roles for Love became scarce. She moved to England in the 1930s, where she continued to act in smaller roles, but she never regained the prominence she once enjoyed. Without the benefit of royalties or long-term studio contracts that provided financial security, she struggled to make ends meet in her later years. To support herself, she worked as a secretary, dance teacher, and even a receptionist, far removed from her days as a film star. Despite her contributions to early cinema, Bessie Love faded into relative obscurity. She continued to act in minor film and television roles into old age, more out of necessity than passion. She died in 1986 with limited financial resources, a forgotten icon of Hollywood's golden past. Louise Brooks was one of the most striking and influential actresses of the silent film era, known for her iconic bob haircut, natural acting style, and mesmerizing screen presence. She starred in several acclaimed films, including Pandora's Box, 1929, and Diary of a Lost Girl, 1929, both directed by G. W. Pabst in Germany. Though her work in Europe is now hailed as groundbreaking, at the time, Brooks was largely overlooked by Hollywood, in part due to her independent spirit and refusal to play by the studio system's rules. Brooks often clashed with producers and famously turned down roles, including a contract extension with Paramount. Her defiance, combined with the industry's shift to sound films, led to her being blacklisted and virtually unemployable in Hollywood by the early 1930s. As a result, her career faded rapidly. In the years that followed, Brooks struggled with poverty and alcoholism. She worked odd jobs, including as a salesgirl and a radio actor, and lived in near obscurity for decades. Later in life, she gained some recognition as a writer, penning insightful essays on film. Despite that, she remained financially insecure until her death in 1985, a tragic fate for a woman now seen as one of cinema's great pioneers. Hattie McDaniel made history in 1940 as the first African-American to win an Academy Award for her role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind, 1939. A talented actress, singer, and comedian, she appeared in over 300 films, often cast in maid roles due to the racial limitations of the era. Despite her groundbreaking Oscar win, McDaniel's success was bittersweet. She faced discrimination from Hollywood and society, both during and after her career. At the Gone with the Wind premiere in Atlanta, she was barred from attending due to segregation laws. Although McDaniel was once one of the highest-paid black performers in Hollywood, she was often criticized for accepting stereotypical roles. Over time, her career declined, and she struggled to find work, especially as public opinion shifted against the kinds of roles she had become famous for. Financial issues compounded when she became ill with breast cancer in the early 1950s. She died in 1952 with limited funds and was denied burial in Hollywood Cemetery due to her race. Though her contributions to film were immense, Hattie McDaniel's final years were marked by hardship and exclusion, reflecting the deep inequalities that persisted even for trailblazing black artists in Hollywood's golden age. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle was one of the most popular silent film comedians of the 1910s, known for his slapstick humor and charismatic screen presence. He was a pioneer in early comedy films and helped launch the careers of stars like Buster Keaton. Arbuckle's films were wildly successful, making him one of the highest-paid actors of his time. However, Arbuckle's career, and fortune, took a devastating hit in 1921 when he was accused of manslaughter following the death of actress Virginia Rappe. Though he was ultimately acquitted after 3 trials, the scandal ruined his reputation. Hollywood studios and theaters shunned him, and he was effectively blacklisted from the film industry for several years. Stripped of his star power and unable to work openly, Arbuckle struggled financially. He returned to filmmaking only under pseudonyms and in lesser roles, never fully regaining his previous success or wealth. Despite his pioneering contributions to comedy and film, his final years were marked by financial hardship and obscurity. Arbuckle died in 1933, largely forgotten by the public and the industry. His story is a cautionary tale about how scandal and public opinion could abruptly end a career, leaving even the most successful stars destitute. Anna May Wong was a groundbreaking Asian-American actress and the first Chinese-American movie star in Hollywood. Rising to fame in the 1920s and 1930s, Wong captivated audiences with her talent, beauty, and charisma, starring in films like The Toll of the Sea, 1922, and Shanghai Express, 1932. She broke barriers in an industry rife with racial discrimination, often fighting against stereotypical roles and limited opportunities for actors of color. Despite her international fame and critical acclaim, Wong never received the financial rewards that matched her talent and popularity. Hollywood's discriminatory practices meant she was often passed over for leading roles or forced into minor, exoticized parts. Studios paid her less than her white counterparts, and she struggled to secure the kinds of contracts that would provide lasting financial stability. Wong worked in Europe for a time, where she found more respect and better roles, but her financial situation remained unstable. Back in the United States, she took whatever roles she could find, including stage work and television appearances, to support herself. Anna May Wong died in 1961 at age 56, with little wealth to show for her pioneering career. Her legacy endures as a symbol of talent and resilience in the face of systemic barriers, highlighting the harsh realities faced by minority actors in Hollywood's golden age. Peggy Shannon was a promising actress during Hollywood's early sound era, known for her vivacious screen presence and striking looks. Born Winona Salmon, she rose to fame in the late 1920s and early 1930s, starring in films like The Great Gabbo, 1929, and Gold Dust Gertie, 1931. Often cast as a bubbly, fun-loving character, Shannon seemed destined for stardom as one of the era's rising young actresses. However, her career was short-lived. Personal problems, including struggles with alcoholism and difficulties with studio executives, led to her professional decline. Unlike many of her contemporaries who adapted to the changing demands of Hollywood, Shannon's opportunities dwindled by the mid-1930s. Unable to regain her footing in the competitive industry, she faded from the public eye. Financial difficulties soon followed. Without steady work and with few savings or royalties to fall back on, Peggy Shannon faced poverty in her later years. She took on occasional small roles but was never able to recapture her earlier success. Shannon died in 1941 at the age of 34, her life and career cut tragically short. Her story serves as a somber reminder of how quickly fortune could turn for actresses during Hollywood's golden age.